21a, 10 lines from the bottom. So we're in the middle of trying to find where Rabbi Abahu said a statement. What did he say? He said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that when you make a shvuah, you make an oath in the past. I ate. So you swear that you ate a piece of pizza yesterday. Really, you didn't eat it. Is that considered a shvuah shav or a shvuah sheker? So Rabbi Abahu said that is considered a shvuah sheker, a false shvuah, and you will be obligated from the Torah when it says don't swear falsely. So we mentioned Rabbi Abahu didn't say this explicitly. We're learning it out. So we're in the middle now of a brisa, which taught us that the word shav was mentioned twice, the word in vain for nothingness, and one of them was to teach you that you're liable for a shvuah shav, and the second time it was to teach you that you're liable for a shvuas sheker. And Rabbi Abahu asked, well, what's the case? Because if you say, I'm not going to eat today, and you go and you eat today, that you did an action. That you don't need the Torah, that you don't need the pasuk to teach you, that you know already. If you said, I will eat, and you sit back and you don't eat, both Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan say you're not going to get malchus. So we're up to V'amar Rabbi Abahu, Tehei ba'achalti v'lo achalti. Let it be the case of achalti, a shvuah that I ate, and I will not eat. So sorry, I ate and you didn't eat. Yesterday, a guy makes a shvuah, he ate a hot dog. It was not true. So let that be the case, that even though you didn't do any action, you'll still be liable a shvuah from the fact that it says the word shav 2 times. The second one comes to teach you this. Okay.
But you didn't do it.
That's the novelty of the pasuk. Exactly. That's the novelty.
It's only a lie. I mean, you call it a shvuah, but
well, you didn't just say I ate, I didn't eat. Yeah. That was saying that you lied.
Yeah.
But you swore in the name of God that yesterday you ate a piece of pizza. So that is where we're saying not only is it considered a shvuah sheker, but it's a shvuah sheker that you're going to get lashes for, even though you didn't do any action.
There's got to be an age limit on these things.
What do you mean?
Once you get past a certain age,
then you don't eat pizza. Yeah. So
it doesn't exist.
Right.
Oh.
So
I'll wake up.
Yeah. So says the Gemara, Ma'ishna, why did you include this case? I ate and I didn't eat, and why not the case of I will eat and then you don't eat? Meaning you're right. At the end of the day, I will eat and you don't eat. You don't get malchus for. But when it comes to the case of the Torah included, so like how did the Torah know to include this one and not include that one? So Amarava, the Feirish Ripsa Torah Shvuah Sheker, Domel Shav. At the end of the day, where are we learning that you're liable for a Shvuah Sheker? From the section of the Torah that deals with the Shvuah Shav, a Shvuah that's just in vain. It says the word Shav 2 times. So we're learning a Shvuah Sheker from there. So we're saying it's going to be similar to it. Domel Shav. Ma Shav L'Shavar, Av Sheker Nami L'Shavar. Just like Shav is talking about the past, you're claiming the table's a chair, a chair's a table. That's not a future commitment. So too, when we're including the Shvuah Sheker, it's going to be similar to it. What's it similar to? I ate when really you didn't eat. Those are both not future commitments. So at the end of the day, that's where we're learning this out from. That this is called a Shvuah Sheker, according to Rabbi Abahu. Esvei, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Abahu. Rabbi Yirmiyah is going to take issue with Rabbi Abahu. Shvuah shelo ochel kikarzu. A guy makes an oath. I'm not going to eat this loaf. Shvuah shelo achalna. Shvuah shelo achalna. So the guy makes 3 oaths about not eating this loaf, and then he eats it. V'achla, 3 oaths, 1 loaf, liable. V'achla eino chai v'lachas. Yeah. 3 shvuahs, 1 loaf. Geico. No. So 3 shvuahs, 1 loaf, you're only liable one. Why? So Rashi explains, because once you made a shvuah, an oath, I will not eat this kikar, this loaf, your second oath is now just an oath to keep your mitzvah. Once you made the first oath, you're obligated now by the Torah to keep it. So when you make a second oath, you're making an oath to keep a mitzvah. But we say you can't do that because you already are commanded to keep it. You can't make an oath to shake your lulav. You're already commanded to shake your lulav. So this shvuah has nowhere to latch onto, has nowhere to go. So it's so that's going to be you're only liable one for the first shvuah. Now, this brisa says, okay, so right now you're saying I'm not going to eat the loaf. That's okay, fine. You're liable one. Zuhi. Now we're coming. This is the shvuah. Zuhi shvuah is bitui, a shvuah of expression. You're expressing that you're going to eat, that you're not going to eat. Shechayavin al zedona makos, that you're liable if you do it advertently. You're liable lashes. Val shegasa korban, and if you do it inadvertently, you're liable a korban olav yored. You're liable a variable offering. Says the Gemara. Zuhi. Those words in a brisa are eliminating something. So what are you eliminating? Zuhi lemeute mai. What is this coming to eliminate? Lav lemeute achalti velo achalti, the low lucky. Is it not coming to exclude a case of where you're swearing that you ate when really you didn't eat, where you wouldn't get malchus? And if that's true, then that's a question on Rabbi Abahu from this brisa. Says Rabbi Abahu, no. The brisa is coming to exclude something else. Lo lemeute achalti velo achalti mi korban. It's coming to exclude achalti velo achalti, that you're not going to bring a korban for that. However, so then you read it like this: Zuhi, this shvuah about I will not eat the loaf. That's where you're liable. If you do it inadvertently and you eat the loaf, you're liable a korban olav yored, a variable offering. However, aval achalti velo achalti lo, for that you're not going to be liable a sacrifice. That's what we're coming to exclude. And who does that go like? That for a past tense, for a past shvuah, you're not liable a korban. That's Rabbi Shmuel. The Amr Eino Chayv El Ala Asir. Rabbi Shmuel holds that you're only liable a korban on a future shvuah, the ones that are explicit in the Torah. I will eat, I will not eat. For the past, you're not going to be liable. However, you do get malchus. Aval milka lucky. You'll still get malchus, just you won't be liable a sacrifice. Turning the page. That's good for the beginning of the brisa. What about the end of the brisa? The ema seifa. So the seifa of the brisa is where you're changing. You're saying the table is a chair, the chair is a table. It's a shvuah shav, a regular case of a shvuah shav. This table is a chair, the chair is a table. Zuhi shvuah shav shechayavin al zedona makas val shirgaso pater. This is a shvuah shav, which you are liable if you do it advertently makos. But if you do it b'shogeg, you are going to be exempt. That's the end of the brisa. Zuhi lemeute mai. What are those words coming to exclude? Mai lav lemeute achalti velo achalti delo lucky. Is it not coming to exclude I ate when really you didn't eat, that you don't get malchus? And if that's true, that's coming to be a question on Rabbi Abahu. Lo, it means zuhi the al shigagaso pater mi korban. Aval achalti velo achalti al shagaso chayev korban. Really, the case of shvuah shav, you'll be exempt from a sacrifice. You'll be exempt from a korban. But I ate when really you didn't eat. Al shagagaso chayev korban. When you do it inadvertently, you will be liable to sacrifice. Who says you're liable to sacrifice on past tense, on past shvuahs? Rabbi Akiva he obligates the past shvuahs just like he obligates the future shvuahs. Says the Gemara, hold on. By asking these questions on Rabbi Abahu and Rabbi Abahu answering for himself, we come at a problem. Ha'amris Reisha Rabbi Shmuel. Ha'amris Reisha Rabbi Shmuel. You said the beginning is Rabbi Shmuel. Reisha Rabbi Shmuel, V'seif Rabbi Akiva. The beginning of the brisa Rabbi Shmuel and the end is Rabbi Akiva. Usually we like to stay with one author of a brisa, not two authors of a brisa. Who wrote this book? The first half was written by this, the second half, it doesn't work that way. So we said, no, really, you're right. Kula Rabbi Akiva. The entire brisa of Rabbi Akiva, the Reisha that was before now Rabbi Shmuel, it wasn't coming to exclude I ate when really you didn't eat from a korban. Rather, it was coming to exclude ochel velo achal mi malchus. I will eat the loaf today, and then you make a swear you will eat the loaf, and then you don't eat it. We're coming to exclude that from Malchus. But a korban, a sacrifice, you will bring about korban mechayev. About korban mechayev. Okay. So now, says the Gemara, how did you know to exclude I will eat a loaf? You're going to exclude that, but you're not excluding the case of I ate. How'd you choose which one gets in, which one gets out? The one I will eat, we eliminate, and the one I ate, you are liable for. So how do you choose that? Ma'ishna. Says the Gemara, logic. Mistabra kai b'lehaba mimai lehaba. The beginning is talking about a future Shavuot. It makes sense that we're staying in the same category. I'm talking about a future Shavuot. I will eliminate a future Shavuot. I'm coming to exclude something in its category. But if we're talking about a future Shavuot, then what I'm coming to exclude a past Shavuot, I'm jumping to a different category. So if categorically I have a Shavuot to exclude, I will choose to exclude the one that's most similar to what I'm talking about, which is going to be a future Shavuot and not a Shavuot of the past. Achalti ve'lo achalti. Okay. Make a chart of who holds up all the Shavuos and see how we hold at the end of the day. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Maybe Shavuos night will stay up all night talking and discussing every Shavuot you're liable and all the different opinions. Yeah. I'll be asleep by 11 o'clock. Yeah. So, no. So, okay. Now we get a little bit to, we're not digressing, but the Mishnah told us that Rabbi Akiva says when a guy makes a shua, he's not going to eat something, he's liable for even the most minuscule amount, even what we call a kol shehu, the tiniest amount. To that, the rabbis asked him, where do you ever find in the whole Torah that you're liable for the tiniest amount? You're always liable for a kezayis, olive, a fig, which those are all halacha Moshe Sinai. Measurements are all halacha Moshe Sinai. So now we're going to talk about this opinion of Rabbi Akiva. This Rabbi Akiva held, Ibailu. Let's ask a question. Rabbi Akiva, b'chol Torah kula, Rabbi Shimon Tzvirlei, the Mechayv Mashu. Rabbi Akiva, he over here we found, I will not eat something, that he obligates you for even the most minuscule amount, less than an olive's worth, tiniest little bit. So does he hold that uniquely to over here? Or is that really a reflection of his opinion throughout the whole Torah? There's one opinion, Rabbi Shimon. It's funny, it's a student of his, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So Rabbi Shimon's of the opinion that in the whole Torah, you're actually liable a kol shehu, even for the tiniest amount, against the classic approach that you're liable an olive's worth or things like that. So you, Rabbi Akiva, who over here showed us that you're liable for even a kol shehu, the tiniest amount, is that because you hold like Rabbi Shimon in the whole Torah, or no, you hold like the rabbis do in the whole Torah? An olive's worth, a fig's worth, just over here is unique. That's the question. Kuluk Rabbi Shimon Tzvirlei, the Mechayev b'mashu. Where do we find that opinion? The Tanya from we had this in Makos. Oh, yeah, I already forgot. The Tanya Rabbi Shimon Omer Kol Shehu Lemakos. To get malchus, to get lashes, you just need a little bit, the tiniest amount to eat. Velo Amru Kizayis, that which we say Kizayis, Ela le'inyan korban. That which obligate you a kazayis, that is to bring a sacrifice. To bring a sacrifice, so I believe it's Halacha Moshe Sinai. Yeah, Halacha Moshe Sinai. So to bring a sacrifice, that you need a certain measurement of a kazayis. But to get lashes, even the smallest amount, Rabbi Shimon says you're liable for. There's a certain forbidden food, and someone warns you, don't eat that, you're going to be liable. Says, I'm going to eat it anyways. So if you eat even the tiniest amount, we're going to give you lashes. If you haven't eaten a kazayas yet, then, and I guess you do it inadvertently, then you will not bring a sacrifice. Now, if Rabbi Akiva holds like Rabbi Shimon, why did all of a sudden over here they have their debate about what you're liable for? If Rabbi Akiva holds like Rabbi Shimon, that means that in the whole Torah he holds even a minuscule amount gets you liable. So why, out of all places in Shavuos, third parak of Shavuos, they decide to argue about what you're liable for, a minuscule amount or not? Says the Gemara, ubedinhu, it's really logical, debai ifluge be'alma, they should argue everywhere. Meaning the machloka shouldn't be when you make a shvua, what are you liable for? It should be anything that's prohibited, what are you liable for? That's what, if he holds like Reb Shimon, that should really be they should argue across the board. I hold like Reb Shimon even a little bit. You hold an olive's worth across the board. Yet, they argued over here to teach you one novelty. Lehodicha kochan derabanan, to teach you the novelty of the Rabbanan. What do the Rabbanan hold? The afal gav the ikala meimar. So now the Rabbanan are of the regular opinion. Olives worth across the board, not a kol shehu, right? An olives worth. Okay. Now, so we're asking, why did they decide to have their debate over here? Just have your debate in general. Have a Mishnah say, I hold everywhere olives worth, you hold everywhere even a minuscule amount. Why they teach it over here? Because by a shavua, by an oath, you would have maybe thought that the Rabbanan would actually agree to Rabbi Akiva. Why? Why would you think they're going to agree to Rabbi Akiva? Shavua breaks the rules. Because let's say you would speak out explicitly, I obligate myself in the name of God to not even eat a minuscule amount of pizza today, right? Mm-hmm. So now even the Rabbanan will agree, well, then you'll be liable for eating a minuscule amount. They're not going to say in olives worth, your words said minuscule amount. So that's what we're saying. The afal gav the ikala meimar hoel umefarish. Since if you would have spoken out, you would have spoken out that you want to prohibit yourself from a minuscule amount, chayiv, you'd be obligated for a minuscule amount, according to everybody, even the Rabbanan. So maybe then, stam nami chayiv, even when you don't speak it out, maybe you would think that becomes the new minimum, even a minuscule amount, since it is possible over here. Kamash malan de patri. The novelty is that the Rabbanan hold, if you don't speak it out, then you're going to follow the general rules in the whole Torah. Unless you spoke it out, it's going to follow the rest of the rules of the measurements of the whole Torah, and it's going to be an olive's worth. Okay, that's one side of the scale. If Rabbi Akiva goes like Reb Shimon, O Dilma, be'alma ki Rabbanan svirle. Rabbi Akiva agrees to the Rabbanan. Just over here, he breaks the rules. Why? Like we just explained, that you would have thought for the Rabbanan, he does say. Why does Rabbi Akiva break the rules over here? Hainu taima, hoel umefaresh chayiv. Since we found by Shavuos, if I were to explicitly say, I'm obligating myself from eating a minuscule amount, I'd be liable for even a minuscule amount, the smallest little bite, I'll be liable for stam nami chayiv. Even when I don't speak it out, even when I don't specify, I will also be liable. Now, Rashi explains why. So a guy makes a shavua, so I'm not eating pizza. So if you get the look into his head, right, take a CAT scan and see what his thoughts are. So is he prohibiting himself like the regular measurements of the Torah or not? Or not? When he says, I'm not going to eat. So he knows generally whatever eating means in the Torah, that's what I don't want to do. So I'm not going to. So what is eating is defined in the Torah by an olive's worth. That's considered eating. So that's what the Rabbanan hold. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, since over here, the shul is dependent on your words, and since if you were to speak it out, even a minuscule amount, you would be liable for that. So maybe here, when he says, I don't want to eat, he's not going with the regular definition of the Torah. He'll go with any little amount of eating. So, yeah. When he says, I don't want to eat, I don't want to eat whatever the minuscule amount is by Shavuos. That's what he means. Whatever so that would be the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. So it's a little bit, seems to be a machlokas, what exactly is in his head. Just ask him. Okay, he ran away. I don't know. He's not around. So okay. So now we're going to bring proofs back and forth. Does Rabbi Akiva agree to the Rabbanan everywhere else? Just here he argues. Or does Rabbi Akiva agree to Rabbi Shimon and argues on the Rabbanan across the board? So our Mishnah should be a good indication he holds one of the ways. Why? Tashma, look at our Mishnah. The Amrul, the Rabbi Akiva, they said, the rabbi said to Rabbi Akiva, Heichan matzinu ba'ochel kol shu chayiv shezeh chayiv. Says the rabbis to Rabbi Akiva, where do you ever find in the rest of the Torah that you're liable for a minuscule amount, that over here by oaths, you'll be liable a minuscule amount? Where do we ever find such a thing? It sounds like, it sounds like the way they ask the question that Rabbi Kiva does not agree to them everywhere else, because they're asking on Rabbi Kiva, where do you ever find that anywhere else you're liable for a kol shehu? The im isa, if Rabbi Kiva held like Reb Shimon that you're liable everywhere, he has a very good response. He could just say like this: Le malahu. He should say to them, Ana I b'chol Torah kula Reb Shimon svirle. I hold like Reb Shimon. They're asking him, we don't find anywhere in the Torah that you're liable for a minuscule amount. So Rabbi Kiva should say, well, I do. I find everywhere in the Torah you're liable for a minuscule amount. And yet he doesn't say that. From the fact that he doesn't say that, it was a good indication that he does not hold like Rabbi Shimon. He agrees to them that in the rest of the Torah, you're not liable for a minuscule amount. Just over here, it breaks the rules. That should be a proof. Says the Gemara, no, it's not a proof. Because maybe what he's saying is like this. L'divreihem dirabanan kamar. Kamar. He's going in their world. According to you, Rabbanan, that's what he's saying. He's saying, Lididi, according to me, b'chol Torah kula, Reb Shimon sirle. I always agree to Reb Shimon. But you, the Rabbanan, Lididchu, at least agree to me over here that you should be liable for even a minuscule amount. Odeli mihas ho mefarish chayev, stam na michayev. At least you, Rabbanan, should agree to me that since in the case of an oath, if I were to speak it out, you agree you'd be liable even a minuscule amount. So even when I don't speak it out, he should be liable even for a minuscule amount. So he's not responding to them his opinion. He's responding to them according to them. According to you, at least agree to me over here. And to that, the rabbi said, "V'amru le rabbanan lo." He said, no. We hold across the whole Torah and all its worth, and over here, it does not break the rules. So our Mishnah, you can't bring a proof. Does Rabbi Akiva agree or disagree to Rabbi Shimon? Because either when he responded to the Rabbanan, he was either responding according to his opinion, which then shows us that he agrees to them everywhere else, or he was responding according to them. According to you, you should agree to me. So he's not voicing his own opinion. He's just saying that at least agree to me over here. But the background to that statement is that, of course, he holds everywhere in the Torah that you're only liable for a minuscule amount. Yeah. Another attempted proof, one way. Tashma, Rabbi Kiva Omer. So now, a Nazir. We're going to talk a little about Nazir. A Nazir, so he can't drink wine. He takes his piece of bread, sheshara pito b'yayin, and he soaks it in wine. V'yesh ba k'dei letzarif, k'zayis. Chayev. So he takes wine, a little bit of wine, let's say an olive's worth of wine, and he soaks bread into it. So now some of the wine is in the bread. So he has less than an olive's worth of wine left in the cup, and he has, let's say he has half an olive worth in the cup and half an olive's worth of wine in the bread. He did a good job soaking challah in the wine, yeah? So now he eats it. He eats both, drinks the wine and eats the bread. So says Rabbi Akiva that you're going to be liable because they can combine for an olive's amount. And you're only liable for an olive's amount. Now, this is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. So, if Rabbi Akiva held like Reb Shimon across the whole Torah, you're only liable for you're liable for even a minuscule amount. What do you have to combine half an olive to half an olive? You're liable for even a minuscule amount. So even without combining anything, you should be liable. From the fact that Rabbi Akiva only obligates you when you combine the two together, shows you that he does not agree like Reb Shimon. If he holds Reb Shimon throughout the whole Torah, that you're liable for even a minuscule amount. Lama lilit saref. What do you have to combine for? One strong proof that Rabbi Akiva does not hold like Reb Shimon across the board. That's one. V'od Tanan, another Mishnah, another proof. Shavua shelo ochel. A guy makes a general shvua. I'm not eating anything. Okay. And then he goes and eats non-kosher. V'achal nevelus u'treifus. He eats an animal that wasn't shechted properly, or that was punctured severely, a fatal wound, or he eats a creepy crawly, shkatzim v'ramasim. So he made a sure I'm not eating anything. So did that include non-kosher food or not? First opinion, chayiv. Yeah, I mean, you said you're not eating anything, so you're not eating anything. So Reb Shimon though poter. Reb Shimon says you're exempt. Okay. The Havinam Bo. We asked on this Mishnah, am I chayiv? Why you chayiv? Mushpa mehar Sinaihu. You're already obligated from Har Sinai to not eat not kosher. So once again, you can't make a shavua that's just repeating what the Torah already told you, right? So simply, where's the shavua going to go? You have to place it somewhere. Now you're already obligated to keep the Torah, so it has nowhere to go. So it says, why are you liable then? The shavua should not have been chal. It should not have been it should not have been liable for the shavua. So Rav Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan. Three opinions, Rav, Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan. The Amri Travayu, okay, that's a mistake. It's not Travayu, Travayu means two. It's really all three of them. Yeah, okay, some say it's a mistake. Yeah. The Amri, they say, Kollel dvarim mutarim and dvarim hasurim. They said, well, you're right. You are already obligated to keep the Torah from Har Sinai. True. However, when you said I'm not going to eat, you included everything. You didn't just you didn't specify I'm not going to eat non-kosher. You said, I'm not eating today. So that included everything. Plenty of kosher food out there. So that's why the shvuah is going to be, you are obligated by that shvuah. If you would have said, I'm making a shvuah, I'm making an oath to not eat, I'm not eating not kosher, that's not going to work. But if you say, I'm not going to eat, that's all inclusive, and that will obligate you. Okay. Now, Reish Lakish Amar, Reish Lakish says, Iyata. Yeah, this line always got me stuck. So iyata motzi, iyata motzi. How do I translate this line? I don't know. I had a hard time with this line.
You cannot find an instance in which an oath is effective regarding prohibited food.
So like very cryptic. What Reish Lakish means to say is that it's not because we're all inclusive, right? I think that's what he's saying. Iyata motzi. It's not because of that. Rather, it's the following, meaning. No, yeah. Reish Lakish doesn't agree to this opinion. The reason why why you are liable is not because it's all inclusive. It's just because you're not going to find a case that you're going to be liable. What does that mean? The following: Ella imefarish chatzi shir v'aliba derabanan. If you specified the minimal amount, so then you will be liable. I mean, the only case you'll be like this. The only case you will be liable is the following: if you specify, I'm going to eat the minimal amount that a person says, I'm not going to eat even the most minimal amount, so then you'll be liable. If you don't specify, then you're going to you could be obligated, even according to Rabbi Akiva, who says the Amar Adam Oser Atzmo B'Kol Shehu, that a person obligates himself even in the most minuscule amount. So therefore, what's Rabbi Akiva trying to say? What's Reish Lakish trying to say? He's explaining why they are liable. I mean, he's saying it has to be one of those two cases. Either you specify explicitly, and it's like the opinion of the rabbis, or you don't specify explicitly, and it's the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. That's what it is. So, but if you don't specify explicitly, and you're not like Rabbi Akiva, then you're not going to be liable. Those are the only two cases that you could be liable. Yeah. So to be liable for a shvuah, according to Reish Lakish, you have to do one of those two things: either say that I'm going to be liable even for a minuscule amount, like everybody, or keep it vague and you'll be like Rabbi Akiva. Okay. So now. Yeah. So now, if Rabbi Akiva in general holds like Reb Shimon, So then, kol shehu nami mushpa v'omer me'ar Sinai. If in general, Rabbi Akiva holds like Reb Shimon that even a minuscule amount you're going to be liable for, so then why did Reish Lakish, in explaining the Rabbanon, in explaining how you can be liable for a Shvuah, he said it's only if Rabbi Akiva, right? Okay, so you're making a Shvuah that you're not going to want to eat, and we're asking, you're already liable from Har Sinai for not eating non-kosher food. So Reish Lakish says, okay, but if you specify explicitly according to the rabbis, even the smallest amount, you'd be liable. Or according to the Rabbi Akiva, if you don't specify. Now, if Rabbi Akiva goes like Reb Shimon, that means that in the whole Torah, you're liable for even a kol shehu. So according to Rabbi Akiva, you should not be liable either way, because even a minuscule amount, you're already obligated from Har Sinai. So since you're already obligated from Har Sinai to even on the smallest amount, so then even according to Rabbi Akiva, it should be a problem because you're already obligated from Har Sinai. So that's the question. How does this Shavuot take place? According to Reish Lakish, we need a new, he disagrees with the earlier rabbis. What the Shavuot that says I'm not going to eat anything, which is including non-kosher food. So how does it take place? How do you obligate yourself? You're already obligated from Har Sinai. So he says, well, if you specify that you're not going to eat even the minuscule amount, that's not from Har Sinai. So that you'll be liable for. Okay, but if Rabbi Akiva holds like Reb Shimon, that is from Har Sinai, even the minuscule amount, and you furthermore should not be liable. The fact that he says you'll be liable if you say even a minuscule amount must show you that he does not agree like Reb Shimon. Because if he agreed to Reb Shimon, specifying or not specifying according to Rabbi Akiva a minuscule amount, you're going to run into the same problem. You're already obligated from Har Sinai. We're looking to find a way that you're obligated for this oath, which is including which cannot obligate you if you're already obligated from Har Sinai. So Reish Lakish says, very simple, a kol shehu, the minuscule amount. Whether you speak it out according to the rabbis, or you don't speak out according to Rabbi Akiva, the minuscule amount are both things that are not obligated from Har Sinai. And therefore, you can say, I will not eat a minuscule amount, and now that will obligate you because the minuscule amount was not from Har Sinai. That was your own shvuah, your own doing now. But if Rabbi Akiva held like Reb Shimon that it is from Har Sinai, even a minuscule amount, then you're going to run into the same problem. The shvuah shouldn't take effect. So it must be alav shmamina, the alma kirabanon stir le shmamina, that really Rabbi Akiva holds like the rabbis, not like Reb Shimon, that everywhere in the Torah you are liable only for an olive's worth and not for a minuscule amount. The only case they argue is by a shvuah. What did you have in mind when you didn't specify? According to Rabbanan, it's going to be following the general rules of the Torah, and according to Rabbi Akiva, it'll break the rules and you'll be liable for even a minuscule amount. Wow.
That's a brave word.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, Amrlo Rabbi Akiva. So now they had a conversation. The rabbis told Rabbi Akiva, where do you find in the whole Torah that you're liable for a minuscule amount? So on that statement, we're going to jump on them. I'll bring you many cases. What were they saying? You can't find me any case in the Torah that you're liable for even a minuscule amount? I'll prove to you 4, 5, 6 cases that you are. So obviously there have to be an answer to this. So the low, really? Nothing? The Hare Nimala, an ant, tiny little ant. You eat that, you're liable. We saw in Makos 6, 7 lashes for that. That's less than a minuscule amount. Says the Gemara, Beria shiny. No, it's different. It's called a Beria. It's a creature. It's a creature. Rashi, at least Rashi explains. I don't know if everyone agrees to this. Rashi says it's because it's a whole entity. Therefore, it's chashuv. It's important, and therefore, even though it's less than that amount, but it has the importance. It's tiny, but because it's a full entity, it's very important. Things like this come up when a little ant jumps in the soup. Do you say it's nullified or not nullified? Well, if it's its own entity, it's a whole entity. It's called a beria, and a beria is different because it has a level of importance. things only get nullified if they lose importance.
Ah.
But if they keep their importance, so then yeah. So okay, so that's not going to work. V'harei hektish, when a guy makes a korban hektish, so you're liable if you use it for your own purpose, even the minuscule amount, even a penny's worth, you're liable. So you see, by misusing a korban, you'll be liable for even the smallest amount. That's also an example. So what would your rabbi say? So we say haba'inon sheva pruta. We say no. The korban itself has like its own rules and regulations. The minimal amount for a korban is a sheva pruta, but that's unique. That's its own minimal amount. You can't apply that to other places. That's its measurement is a sheva pruta. Okay, v'harei mefaresh. You rabbis agree that if you specify, I will not eat even a minuscule amount, you'll be liable. So you see, even you agree that there's a case that you're liable if you speak it out explicitly that I will not eat a minuscule amount. So to that they respond, no. Mefaresh nami kiberia dami. When you speak it out, it means you're giving importance to a minuscule amount. Usually a minuscule amount doesn't have any importance. It's very minuscule. It doesn't have any importance. So, but if you're your own entity, a beria, that already has a level of importance. So too, if you explicitly speak out, I don't want to eat even a minuscule amount, so you are now giving importance to even a minuscule amount. But when you say in general, I'm not going to eat, that's where the rabbis argue. So once again, that's also not a good proof. The hare afar. So let's say a guy makes a shvuah, I'm not eating dirt. I will not eat dirt today. So we're thinking now that since dirt is not... Sorry, I will eat dirt today. No, I won't eat dirt today.
It's to eat dirt.
To not eat dirt. Not yet. Hold on.
Okay. Oh.
I'm lying behind you. You're on the next Talmud already, right?
No.
Huh?
The last.
I don't. Rashi explains the hare afar means ha'omer shvuah shelo ochel afar. A guy makes a shvuah, I will not eat dirt. And the thought process is, since it's not edible, so therefore it doesn't have the same obligation as the rest of the Torah, and you'll be liable even for a minuscule amount. If that would be true, so then that's another case in the Torah that we find, you'll be liable for even a minuscule amount. So what were the rabbis saying? We never find where you're liable for a minuscule amount. It's not true. If you make a shvuah, I will not eat dirt, and you eat a minuscule amount, you will be liable. Well, it says, hold on. If that's true, then that should answer a question that we're going to see, I guess, with Rabbi Spivak on Shabbos, that Rava asked. Meaning, if this is true, then that should answer Rava's question. So why didn't Rava answer it? What was Rava's question? Debayi Rava. Rava asked, Shavuot shelo ochel. A guy makes a shvuah that I'm not going to eat dirt. The achal afar bekama. How much do you have to eat to be liable? That was Rava's question. So, according to the rabbis, they should answer very simply: Tifshir adika kazayis, until you have a kazayis, right? Don't you agree, rabbis, that you never find anywhere in the Torah? If that's true, then that should be an easy answer to Rava's question. So we say, no, you can't bring afar into this discussion of the rabbis and Rabbi Kiva. Why? They were arguing about kikamina the barachila kamina. They were talking about food. You never found in the food in the food world that you're liable for a minuscule amount. Dirt is not food, leave it out. That's a separate thing. So once again, by food, we never found that you're liable for, so says the Gemara, what do you mean? Bare konamos. We know that by a neder, you can prohibit a loaf of bread by using the terminology konam. Konam is another way of saying, I want you to be prohibited like a korban. Konam is a nickname for korban. So you want this pizza to be prohibited to me like a korban. So there, if you say that, so then you will be liable even for the most minuscule amount. Says the Gemara once again, that's kimefarish dami. When you're saying this should be prohibited to me with a konam, like a korban, so a korban we had earlier, that's like speaking it out. Because since a korban has a minimal amount, so that's like you're basically saying, I want to be obligated in the most minuscule amount. That's like speaking it out. because you didn't say I want to not eat this loaf. You just said I want this loaf to be prohibited to me. So that's as if you're basically speaking out in any which way possible. So even the tiniest amount that I get pleasure from is prohibited to me. So that's like speaking it out. Anytime anything's like speaking it out or it's its own entity, that means you attribute it to it level of importance. The question is when you're talking about eating something and you didn't specify, that's what the rabbis say it has to be an olive's worth, to which Rabbi Kiva says, no, that could be even a minuscule amount. Let's keep going for a little bit. Okay. Vilo. Oh, sorry. So now, Rabbi Akiva responded to the rabbis, Amar Lahu, where do you ever find that when you speak, you're liable for a korban? Only by Shavuot, when you speak, you're liable for a korban. So that's why it breaks the rules. Says the Gemara, really? The only time when you speak, you're liable for an offering is by Shavuot? It's not true. Velo v'harei megadef. A guy blasphemes God. He curses God. So that person will bring a korban. Harei megadef. So Rabbi Akiva, what were you saying? No. Midaber v'oser karminan. Someone who speaks and obligates himself in something. The megadef is not obligating yourself. You're just cursing God. You're blaspheming God. We're talking about a case where you swear and now you're obligated by your words. So this guy is speaking and sinning, not speaking and obligating. Nazir, a Nazir at the end of his Nazir's process, he brings a korban, maybe korban al diburo, maybe korban al diburo. A guy says, I will be a Nazir, finishes the process, he brings a sacrifice. That's very similar to us. So says the Gemara, al diburo kamrinan v'hayi maybe korban l'ishtaruile chamrahu the kamaisi. Says I'm a person a little bit confused by this, but I don't know Nazir well enough. But here you're being obligated for your words. I will not eat the piece of pizza. I will not eat today. By Nazir, the reason why you bring the sacrifice is not because you finished your Nazir process. Rather, it's because you're enabling yourself to be permitted to go and drink wine again. That's why. So there is one opinion that says you bring a korban Nazir because you sinned, because you removed yourself from the pleasures of God's world. But it sounds like this, according to this Gemara, it must go like a different opinion. The reason why you bring the sacrifice is not because of your Nazirus, not because it's because you want to now be able to eat again and drink again or go to the cemetery again. For those things, you bring a sacrifice. Somehow the sacrifice permits you to drink wine again. So that's also not similar to a Shavuot. Says the Gemara, V'harei hektish. What about hektish? You say that this animal will be prohibited. That is using your words, prohibiting something, and if you violate it, you have to bring a korban. Says the Gemara, it's not similar. Why? Oser la'atzmo kamrin, and v'hayi oser al kol olam kulahu. A korban is prohibited for the whole world. Rabbi Akiva, when he said, when do you ever find you speaking and then being obligated in a korban, he was talking about when you're only for yourself, not for the whole world. Okay, one more to the period. Hare konamos, when you prohibit the loaf of bread on you with the terminology of konamos. So there it's only for you, and you're liable to sacrifice. Says the Gemara, this is two opinions. Kasavar ein me'ila bekonamos. Me'ila, we know, is the term you use for misusing sanctity. So what about this? The loaf should be prohibited to me like a korban. Is that going to have me'ila or not going to have me'ila? This, according to this, Rabbi Akiva must hold that there's no me'ila. There's no me'ila by no misusing by a korban, by a konam. So therefore, there's going to be no sacrifice either. Sorry, we're a little